Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Welcome to the Aliyah day. It is Parashah. What Parashah is it? Matot-Masei. Yes, the last Parashah of Bamidbar. And so we're very much looking forward to moving into Deuteronomy, which of course will be next week, the last book of Torah, Baruch HaShem. Glad that you're with me today. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Hope everybody is doing fantastic and being richly blessed. A couple of announcements. We're getting ready to get underway here. I put the link on the chat, the live chat here for the registration for the Hebrew reading class. I've gone back and forth as to whether to use Google Meet or YouTube live feature to use for this class, and I had thought that Google Meet might be the best way because it's a classroom environment and interact with people and see them and so forth. Problem is that our audience is too big and it's worldwide. And as a result, not everybody is on the same time zone. Not everybody can, get into Google Meet. May not even have it in certain countries. I don't know. But in any case, and in addition to that, there's issues about whether or not the recording and how people would access the recording if they can't make it live and what have you. So I think that we're going to have to just stick with YouTube. I think that's just the easiest, best part. The real only drawback is that there will be people who will inadvertently join the class who have no idea what's going on, and they won't have the book, and there could potentially be some confusion there, but that's unfortunate. But I think that, that's a relatively minor inconvenience that we'll have to deal with. So it's going to be on YouTube. I think that's just the easiest way for everybody to be able to access it and so on and so forth. So be sure and get your book, though. I know that the books are hard to find. I told you, some people have said they've gone and they're sold out. They're sold out because you're buying them. So nobody else can buy them, but they're out of print. Listen, I'm telling you, it's almost like a secret. It's a secret curriculum, and I will tell you this: I have seen many curriculums for reading Hebrew, learning to read Hebrew. It's never been this one. I'm the only one who has ever taught this curriculum, which is just to me kind of crazy. I've never seen anybody ever mention it in the last. I mean, look, how long has it been now? Nearly 20 years, and never heard anybody mention it. I'm the only one who's ever mentioned this particular book, this particular curriculum. And what's crazy is that I've heard people go through other classes and other programs, and they cannot read Hebrew today. And the people that I've taken through this program read Hebrew in 10 weeks. So won't it be, can you imagine sitting down at a Havdalah and not having to use transliteration? Not only not needing to use it, not wanting to use it. By the time, when you start to learn to read Hebrew, at least for me, this is my experience, may not be your experience. My experience has been that you don't want to use transliteration anymore. And not because you're prideful or arrogant or anything like that. It's just that it's easier to read the Hebrew because transliteration is not an exact science. So to me, it's confusing because I'm like, well, is that really how you say it? So I'd rather see the Hebrew. So anyway, can you imagine sitting down with your Havdalah, and just not needing the transliteration, or doing Erev Shabbat, being able to, let's say the Kiddush, not needing the transliteration? Can you imagine? Well, that's going to be you in about 11 weeks. So sign up for the class. It's a free service, although there is a suggested donation of $2,000. Charlie, did you put that in the program today? I know. He's cold-hearted penguin. He's always trying to gain a little bit. Charlie, don't put that in the notes. It's not a suggested donation of $2,000. All right. Anyway, what else do we have? That's going to be next Wednesday, by the way, 7 p.m. Mock Zohar set. I've tried to put the link to the Mock Zohar set here on this chat, but unfortunately, the link was too long. So I'll have to send that out another way. So It wouldn't allow. It's too long for the chat. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the journeys of Israel. There are 42 journeys where we look at our Aliyah today takes us into Parasha Masei. The last part of the Parasha Matot was interesting. It dealt with Reuben and Gad, who wanted to have property outside the boundaries of Israel. And what was interesting, because it kind of dovetailed in what I was talking about. Taking your place in the battle, taking your place in the fight. And Moses said, look, what are you trying to shuck your duty? And they said, no. In fact, we will be the vanguard of the army. So we'll go first. So just another example of how everybody has to get involved. And I think you could take this and spiritualize it and say, when it comes to serving in a community, everybody needs to be involved. Everybody needs to take their place of service in the community and be everybody being worker bees in some way, shape, or form. And I see that in the Lapid Judaism community. I see people stepping up and wanting to be involved and being proactive, being a part of the solution as opposed to being part of the problem. And this also goes, by the way, to the issue of tithing. And I want to bring up that for just a second, because those of you who are maybe you've been part of religious organizations that do that believe in tithing, you may not realize that a small fraction of the population of those organizations actually do tithe. I think the statistic is somewhere around 3%, plus or minus. But something, think about that for a moment. In any given church, let's say, no matter what the church is, the average statistic is about 3% of the people actually giving. That means that there are roughly speaking about 97% of the people are takers, and that's just terrible. So the beauty of Lapid Judaism is that our people are not like that. Being a tither is not just about being obedient to Torah. It's not just about having skin in the game. It's not just about the person setting themselves up for not just financial blessing, but just blessing in general. But it's also about being a part of the army, not being a taker, but being a giver, being someone who steps up and does their part. It's about that as well, and I think it's extremely healthy. And I'm thoroughly convinced that if we have everyone in the community who is tithing, then we will all collectively and individually reap a significant harvest of blessing when that's the case. And that comes in a lot of ways. Does it mean that every one of us is going to be living in a $5 million home and driving around in a Maserati or Porsche or Fiat or Ferrari or whatever? I don't really want that. I wouldn't. If you had, I wouldn't want a Ferrari. But that's just not that you care what I want, but I just throw that out there. No, it doesn't. But it does mean that we would all be significantly blessed, right? Significantly blessed. So, hey, good morning, Gianna. Hope you're doing great and being blessed. Speaking of blessings, good morning, Hepzibah. I hope life is treating you well. Kelly Allard, sun, enjoying the sunshine of the Puget Sound area. Good morning, Seth. Emmanuel, welcome, watching from Nigeria. Zakin Yagal, good morning. Louise, good day. Hope you're doing fantastic. Our awesome Aussie who's now in America. Good morning, Ariella Rafaela. Clayton Coiler, good morning to you. Peaches, formerly from Georgia. Hope you're doing great. Isaac, good morning, Isaac. Also watching from the great state of California. Good morning, Darren. Hope you're doing fantastic. Shoshana Brenner, good morning. And let's see. Brenda, good morning. Lynn, good morning. Yeshai Hayes, I hope you and a day are doing well. And happy anniversary to you guys. 25 years, I believe you said. 25 years of blessed marriage and matrimony. Mazel tov to you both. Hope you're doing great and having a fantastic anniversary week. Joseph Johnson, good morning to you. Making your way to Texas, also watching from California. Now, when you say, Joseph, that you're making your way to Texas, does that mean that you're going to be moving to Texas? And if so, when do you think that is going to be the case? Please let us know. Curious minds want to know. Good morning, Anthony. Good morning, Heather Miller. Good morning, Kim Mint. Makaya, good morning to you. Sergio, also watching from California. Good morning. Hope you and Johnny and the fam are doing great. Sonia Holtz, watching from Eastern Tennessee. Good morning. And Chanel, good morning. Sarah Merritt, hope you and Shane are doing great. Chris and Crystal, good morning to you and all of your Sharon. Who else do we have on the program? Amita, there she is. Hope you and Pincus are doing great. Watching from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Good morning, Geneva, watching from the great state of Ohio. We really enjoyed driving. I did enjoy driving through Ohio. Does anybody live in Cincinnati? I think I've mentioned this before. I feel like if I lived in Ohio, we might want to live in Cincinnati. Is Cincinnati a good place? Does anybody know? Is it a good city? It seemed like it. Seemed like a nice place. Do they actually have a WKRP in Cincinnati, by the way? Was that a real radio station? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? WKRP. The fact that I know that and I can just rattle it off is crazy. The human mind. How many of you, by the way, know you can rattle off your the phone number of your childhood home, but you can't remember your password that you created last week? Anybody know their phone number from when they were growing up? 817-488-6536. That was the phone number of my house in Grapevine. I mean, 817-488-6536. I mean, I know that today. I probably know that forever. It was drilled into my head, Anyway, anybody? Good morning, Melka. Good morning, Z-Ray. Good morning to you, sir. Kim Bement. I did say good morning. Good morning to you again. Good morning, Timothy. Jero. Good morning to you. Timothy, off topic. Luke 10:18. This is not allowing the consumption of pork. No. Not at all. Messiah would never allow the consumption of pork because to eat pork is a sin, and he does not allow sin, and he can never nullify the word of God because the word of God is eternal. If he did authorize the consumption of pork, then he is a false Messiah according to Deuteronomy 13 and a liar, and we would have to denounce him. Thank God he's not. Who else do we have here? Keturah, good morning. Leah, good morning. Ami, good to see you. Hope you and Claire are doing fantastic. Who else do we have? Going through. Sorry for the delay. Good morning, Dana. Hope you're doing great. But I'm kind of reading through the text here because y'all having some great ideas, but I'll have to read those later. Batya, good morning. Rebetzin, good morning. Yosef, good to see you, sir. Speaking of Maseratis. Good morning, John, watching from India. Good to see you. Hannah, good morning. Dodge Ram, Amita. Yeah, there you go. Dodge Ram. I would have I'm more into the luxury class vehicle myself personally. Sports cars are great and people love them. I'm just more into I want to drive down the road as if I'm riding in my recliner as opposed to a super fast car. But that's just me. Everybody has their things they like. Good morning, Radomir from sunny Scotland. Glad you're here. Yes, 25 years from Yeshua Day. Good morning. God, look at all you guys. Y'all are fantastic. Timothy, yeah, Luke 10:8 is not a pass on eating. non-kosher. I don't think. Chanel is in Cincinnati. I didn't know that. Chanel, you're in Cincinnati. Well, tell us all about Cincinnati. I'd like to know. Seemed like a really pretty place. Yeshua, great city. Yeah, it's beautiful. Anyway, all right, great. Do they have? I don't have time to go through all the comments right now. I got to get to the reading, but do they have a WKRP or is that just fictional? Inquiring minds want to know. All right, so let's look at the journeys. If I missed you, I apologize. I did not. It's not intentional by any stretch of the imagination. So Elena Martinez, good morning to you, and John Michael Lewis, good morning, sir. Hope I didn't miss anybody. Oh, it is fictional. Chanel, it's fictional. Okay, well, that's a bummer. All right, so let's look at the insight here as we're getting. I'm going to read a section from Rabbi Trugman's commentary on Masei. But I want to begin with the Kale Tumash. These are the journeys. It says the Baal Shem Tov taught that these 42 journeys correspond to the 42 spiritual journeys that we make throughout our life. We begin from birth, just as the Exodus from Egypt is both the Jewish people's national birth and an allegory for every individual birth. The liberation of the fetus from the confines of the womb into the freedom of the outside world where it can develop and become independent. The final journey is to the spiritual promised land. That would be, of course, the afterlife. You know, it's interesting to think of it that way. Our life is indeed a journey, and passing on from this life to the next life is extraordinarily scary because we don't know, obviously, but it is in fact part of the journey. Just to pause here for a moment and mention something that's talked about in the Zohar and other places about how the soul comes to be in the world. And one of the ways that is described is that our soul is leaving the Olam Haba to come to this world, because remember, all of our souls were created in Shemayim, and I like to mention that again, that all of us, regardless of our natural age, our physical earthly age, all of us are actually the same age because all of our souls were created at the same time. Some of us have gray hair and others don't. I saw a little meme recently that said, I don't have gray hair, I have wisdom glitter. So there you go. I have wisdom glitter. But anyway, we're all the same age, but it talked about how we were leaving Shemayim and we didn't want to come to this world. Who would? I mean, seriously, who would want to leave the Olam Haba and come to this place? We didn't, and so we fought tooth and nail, and then the angel instructs us, and so forth. We come into the world. We are borned, as we say in French, and then we forget it. We don't know what it was like in the Olam Haba. We don't have any recollection of that, and so here we are. And when it comes time to leave, we are, of course, not wanting to leave. Okay. And the angel appears to us right before we leave and reminds us of the Olam Haba, reminds us of the place from which we've come, and reminds us how we didn't want to come here to begin with, how we resisted coming here, and all of a sudden we remember. And they say that sometimes this is why people seem so peaceful when they pass away, is because they realize that they didn't want to come here to begin with, and they remember what it was like before they came here. So it's interesting, but it's all part of the journey. So it goes on to say, although some of the intervening journeys in the Israelites' trek through the desert were accompanied by setbacks, all the stations on our spiritual journey through life are meant to be holy and positive. If we choose good over evil, we will indeed live through these phases of life in the way that God intends. And see, ladies and gentlemen, this is the point. The fact that you have or I have challenges or have had challenges or even setbacks in life, that's not the that is not the takeaway. The takeaway is how you maneuvered through those setbacks or those challenges. And if somebody, anybody, I mean, we could use boxing as an example. Has anybody seen a boxing match where somebody got knocked to the ground, knocked to the mat, but came back and won the match? Yeah. So basically, being knocked to the ground doesn't mean that you've lost the match, does it? And how many people think about American football and think about the um, the Super Bowl? When your team that you're cheering for and rooting for wins the Super Bowl, do you really care? Does the score really matter? Now, for some, it may, if you're really into statistics and that type of thing. But at the end of the day, does anybody really care what the score was? Let's say that you're rooting for your particular team. If you're into this sport, maybe you're not, and that's fine. It's just an analogy. But suppose that you're rooting for your team, and at halftime, they're way down. And maybe in the third quarter, they fumble the ball on the 1 yard line. And let's say the opposing team runs it back for a touchdown. But in the fourth quarter, they rally and they overcome and they win the game. Does anybody really care if they were down at halftime or if they fumbled on the 1 yard line? No, nobody really cares. And nobody's going to, there's not going to be any screaming and hollering in the locker room over those mistakes, are there? No, everybody's going to be popping the champagne cork. Everybody's going to be celebrating. Everybody's going to be hugging each other, half high-fiving, fist bumping. It's going to be, joy and mayhem and so forth. No one's going to care. And see, that's life. You might have fumbled the ball on the 1 yard line and the enemy ran it back for a touchdown, but see, you recovered because you decided to come back to HaShem, make tshuva. The angels in heaven don't care that you fumbled the ball. All they care about is how you recovered. Do you see? That's the celebration. That's the joy. So it says, and this is the point, people who follow Paul, they're deceived into thinking that they're grace oriented, but they're actually not. So they talk to us and they say, "You're trying to follow that law of Moses?" Yes. Why? Well, because it's the word of God. That's new to them. They just heard that they've never heard that before. And they're thinking that if you're trying to follow the law of Moses and you fumble the ball, that God is going to hate your guts. That's not true. If you fumble the ball, the point is recover. It's called teshuvah. And God forgets about the fumble. All he cares about is you won the game. You see, that's grace. So it says, if, like the generation of the desert, we make some wrong choices, we will experience them as temporary setbacks. If, like the generation of the desert, we make some wrong choices, we will experience them as temporary setbacks. Although at every step in the journey of life, we strive to make the right choices, we should also recognize that even setbacks can be transformed into positive growth experiences. Boy, isn't that true? How many setbacks in life have we had that ended up with us learning valuable lessons and moving forward in a positive way from those setbacks? A lot of times it actually takes setbacks to get us properly focused. It takes that. These are all growth experiences. I talked about yesterday. This is why we shouldn't fall. We should not succumb to the problem of ego and pride, whereby we don't accept the rebuke, or that we don't accept that we're wrong in this matter or that matter. I talked at length yesterday how there's a real sickness in our society that people can hold beliefs based on a false premise. And when that premise is exposed to be false, they still hold to their belief. Why? That's completely irrational. But why do the people do that? Because they're more concerned with their ego than they are with truth. They'd rather be right than correct, because it's all about pride and ego. There's nothing wrong, as I said yesterday, and pardon me for repeating it again today, but here let's talk about it again. There's nothing wrong. You're not stupid, or you're not an idiot, or you're not mentally ill, or you're not crazy, or you're not a lesser person if you held a belief because that belief was based upon a falsehood, a false idea, a false premise, a false fact. There's nothing wrong with you. You believe something to be true. It turns out that is not true. You thought that we won our independence from the Imperial Japanese because maybe you learned that in school from some teacher that didn't know anything. And so you grew up your whole life thinking, yeah, we really did a good job beating the Japanese, and that's how we won our independence in America. And so there's nothing wrong with you. You were taught that. That's wrong. So somebody comes along and says, actually, here's the facts. We did not fight the Imperial Japanese. We fought the British. Well, if you want to see, you would actually be a genius if you actually looked at the fact and said, you know what? I realized I was wrong. My bad. Let me change my opinion on this. That's a mature person. But so you're not a nutcase if you believe something based on a falsehood that you didn't know was false, obviously. You're not a nutcase. You're just somebody that, just doesn't know what they don't know. And that's a lot of us a lot of times. However, if you continue to believe the lie, once the basis of that lie is exposed to be a falsehood, then you are a nutcase. Does that make sense to everybody? You see, you can become a nutcase if you're if the foundation of your belief is proven false, and yet you still hold to that belief. You see what I'm saying? Hopefully that makes sense. So don't be a nutcase, right? You're not a nutcase for having a false belief because you didn't know what you didn't know. But if you continue in that belief after it's been exposed, then yes, now you've become a nutcase. Okay. No, we still want our independence from the Imperial Japanese, even though there's not a history book on the planet that has said that. Now you're a nutcase. Okay. So this is what Rabbi Trubin says. The dynamics of the journey. This is what he writes. Masei. The last portion of the book of Numbers marks the end of Israel's 40-year sojourn in the desert. The entire book of Deuteronomy takes place during a brief 37-day period. Therefore, in Masei, the Torah summarizes the 42 journeys that occurred during Israel's wandering in the desert from the time the nation left Egypt to the current encampment in the plains of Moab across the Jordan River from Jericho. Interestingly, it says here, Deuteronomy takes place in 37 days. What's interesting is that's the shortest time period, but the book of Bamidbar takes place over 40 years. So Bamidbar covers 40 years of history, and Deuteronomy covers basically a little more than a month. Isn't that interesting? This is an interesting side note. So it says these journeys are introduced by a verse that creates a mirror image. And Moses wrote their going forth according to their journeys at the command of God. And these were the journeys according to their going forth. Numbers 33:2. The words going forth and journeys found in the first half of the verse occur in the opposite order in the second half of the verse. The Art Scroll Chumash quotes Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch on the significance of this inversion. The first half of the verse, they're going forth according to their journeys, is written from God's perspective, as each time they went forth, their journey had a specific purpose, while the second half of the verse is written from the people's perspective. Since the people were often restless or dissatisfied, the journey itself is emphasized and not its purpose. As the verse makes clear, the journeys were more about leaving than about going anywhere. Their journeys according to their going forth. This point, although subtle, is very true. He writes, often we have the forethought to map out our next moves in life in keeping with our long-term plans with regard to a broader vision of where we are going in life. Sometimes, though, we really do not know what should come next, but our intuition at best, or our fears at worst, compel us to make a move without fully knowing what the ramifications of such a move might be. The sages actually suggest that in a certain circumstances, a change of physical location actually provides us with such a new perspective on our lives that it can either motivate us to change our fate, or alternatively, that it can cause our fate to be changed on a metaphysical level. This comes from the Talmud, Rosh Hashanah 16. Although following a well thought out plan should be the ideal way to pursue what we believe is the divinely inspired purpose of our lives, in retrospect, even acting intuitively or out of fear can also turn out to be, as the verse states, at the command of God. So one sense is a dynamic, pulsating energy in the summary of the journeys, which is dramatically captured by the unique way the words are chanted during the public Torah reading. The only other time this unique method is used is when the Song of Songs is read in the public. There too, the energy is palpable, as the Jews have just escaped from Egypt and seen their pursuer drown in the Red Sea. According to Hasidut, which teaches that the Torah provides each and every person in every generation with practical instructions, these 42 journeys are an archetypal paradigm for every individual's life journey. Okay. Each person, though, experiences these journeys in a fashion uniquely adapted to his or her soul and his or her life work and purpose. So we continue reading here. He continues on and says, Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg notes the beautiful correspondence between these 42 journeys and the 42 times the Hebrew word for love appears in the 5 books of Moses. Now let's pause here and look at this for just a second. He's talking here about journeys in life, and sometimes we have a well thought out plan, and sometimes we don't. And it doesn't matter, because yes, while it's ideal to have a good plan, sometimes, and as we all can testify, oftentimes HaShem is still in control of even our unplanned excursions, if you will. But here he's talking about the 42. There's a correspondence between the 42 journeys. And listen to this. So there's 42 journeys in Torah, and then there's 42 times that the Hebrew root for love, ahava, appears in the 5 books of Moses. Now, when you're listening to people talk about the law of Moses, would you agree with me that when people who don't know anything about anything, they talk about the law of Moses in a negative context, in a negative sense? They talk about it as, let's say, being burdensome, harsh. You know, would you agree with me that that's generally how that's the perception? And then when they talk about the gospel, it's about love and bromance and, kindness and modesty, right? That's how people talk about it. Just like that, by the way. Same accent. But as it turns out, in the law of Moshe, 42 times the word love is used. Ahava. He goes on to say, furthermore, he knows that these correspond with the 42-letter name of God alluded to in the 42 words of the mystical prayer, An Bakoach. What's the An Bakoach prayer? It's about teshuvah. It's about forgiveness. So we have 42 journeys, 42 times that love is used, and the 42 letter name of God in the An Bakoach, which is about teshuvah, forgiveness. It says the association of these various sets of 42 teach us that each of the journeys in the desert, as well as each person's personal journey, takes place within the overall context of God's love, despite being filled at times with obstacles, failures, frustrations, and uncertainty. This is the Gam Zulatova moment where we recognize that, life has not always been a bowl of cherries. I don't know about you, but sometimes you can look back on life and you can say that entire year, 1990, whatever, 2000, whatever, that whole year was horrible. Sometimes you can look back on your life and say, actually, that set of years was bad. But Gam Zulatova would say, which means this too is for the best, would suggest that even so, it was all part of the journey and all part of what was necessary to get us to the top, or to grow us, right? So it goes on to say, knowing that God's love for each and every person forms the basic existential parameters in which we operate, has the power to turn obstacles into challenges, trials into opportunities, and adversity into triumph. See, this is love. That's what discipline is about. This is why people don't want to follow the law of Moses, because they don't want any responsibility. They don't want any challenges. They don't want any discipline. But ladies and gentlemen, that's not where life is. That's not growth. You have to get out there and you have to, work and strive and so forth. No one's going to get stronger if they're not doing something that is resistance and causing a building of strength, right? So it says, as each place along the journey is mentioned in the Torah, the same formula is repeated. They journeyed from and they camped in. The pattern alludes to how all process and progress works in a dynamic ebb and flow of starts and stops, activity and rest, taking the initiative and passively receiving. The same dynamic forms the basic structure of Jewish time, as 6 days of work are followed by a Shabbat and 6 years of agricultural work are followed by a sabbatical year. So you see, every time we keep the Shabbat, we're following this journey. Life is about ups and downs, right? It's not just about everything being perfect. And so in Kabbalah, this energetic ebb and flow is referred to as run and return, a phrase borrowed from the vibrant movement of the angels in Ezekiel's vision from Ezekiel 1:14. So life is a journey, and we learn in this journey that even our ups and downs, even our setbacks, even our challenges, all of that is part of the blessing of life. And that's what the world doesn't want you to know. The world wants you to think that it's just all about, just a bowl of cherries sometimes, but it's not. It's not. But again, you might have had setbacks in your life, but how many of you, and I know that we could spend all day, everybody sharing their testimonies about how major setbacks in your life or stumblings in your life actually brought you to a higher level. That's the way life is. And that goes back to the idea of courage. No one gets a medal. Not that the medal is anybody's goal, but nobody gets a medal for sitting on the sidelines. Nobody gets a medal for that. Right? And whether it's in the military context or athletic or academic, you have to put yourself out there. You have to take some risk. This is why I say sitting in a yeshiva all day long, surrounded by like-minded people who are all studying the holy books, that's great. And who wouldn't enjoy that for a period of time? It'd be wonderful, but that's not where the victory is. That's not where the courageous live. That's not where the brave live. The brave actually are the ones who are out in the world on the battlefield, dodging the bullets and making right choices and making proper distinctions. The gentleman asked about the passage in the gospel. Did the Messiah make it okay for us to eat pork? Of course, no. The answer, of course, is no. But see, then the gentleman is asking, this is not a reflection on him. I'm just speaking generally about the Gentile mind. See, the Gentile mind wants to erase the food laws because it wants to erase the need to make a choice. It's about making life easy. So I don't have to make choices. I don't have to make distinctions. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want. And therefore, it removes from me responsibility. It removes from me some type of pain, pain in the sense that I can't just eat. I may be hungry, but I can't just go eat whatever I want. I have to wait until I find something proper and holy to eat. So the flesh, the carnal mind, which is the uncircumcised Gentile mind, doesn't like that. And so therefore wants to create a doctrine whereby that pain, that responsibility, that discipline is removed. But ladies and gentlemen, that's not the life of somebody who is courageous. That's the life of a coward. The coward just wants to live in comfort all the time and never leave the study hall. But that's not where life is. End of our Aliyah today. Thank you so much for being here. Please be sure and subscribe to our channel if you've not done so. Like this video. Share this video with all of your friends. Thank you for those of you who commented on the video yesterday and gave your insights and thoughts. Thank you for that. It's very helpful. I want to encourage everybody to do that when the video posts. Please be sure and make those comments. Watch some of our older content as well. You might glean from something I said last year, or somebody else said last year. You might glean from that as well. Might be a growth point for you. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Until then, have a great and amazing day. Shalom Aleichem to all of you. Be richly blessed. We'll see you then.